from Alberta's news source. CBC Alberta News. From Calgary, Bob Nicholson. From Edmonton, Bob Chelman. And Dirksen Connolly with sports.
Good morning. This is the worst kind of weather to fight fires.
But that's what happened in South Edmonton tonight. Witnesses say they saw fire around the gas pumps of the Bubbles car wash on White Avenue. Shortly afterwards, the pumps exploded. The flames spread to the canopy in front of the business, and it also forced about 40 customers out of a nearby restaurant into the freezing weather tonight.
In Calgary, there will be warm beds for homeless people tonight. It's a team effort combining the city, the Army, the province, and various social agencies. This is the Calgary Drop-In Center, where homeless people can find shelter and a hot meal.
I guess they have nowhere else to go. They wander from city to city, and if they get caught during winter here, it's a good place to be, but if you're caught in this town during winter, and it's a cold city.
But with temperatures hovering around minus 25, the drop-in center is stretched beyond capacity.
Cold always creates an increase in numbers. Every year we notice that. At this time, I do think it's a strong indication that numbers are increasing. As I said, last year we would have expected 120, 25. This year, 205. To deal with 205 people who are looking for a bed when it's 25 below it's quite shocking, even for people who work in this business.
So Calgary's Disaster Services Department went to the military for help, and the Army came through with cots and blankets from CFB Calgary.
Usually for relief work of this sort, they're putting us in an airplane and sending us across the world somewhere.
The Army has set up 40 beds at the Mustard Seed Ministry.
Normally we sleep 44 here, but tonight it'll be 84. So that scares us because all of a sudden our resources are taxed to the limit.
20 more beds will go to another downtown agency. 6 soldiers will stay through the night to provide supervision at the centers, and the city is providing bus service to move the people to the new beds. But tonight's relief effort is only a temporary measure, lasting only till the end of this cold snap.
And it's been a bad 12 hours of trouble on Alberta roads. Several injury accidents were reported in the Edmonton area on highways and freeways. One crash sent a car off in an overpass down a bank onto the edge of the White Mud Freeway this afternoon. And amazingly, no one was hurt in this one. It was one of 10 accidents on the White Mud, which turned the freeway into a parking lot during rush hour. But trouble started earlier in the day when 2 men were seriously injured in a crash of 2 semis. That accident closed eastbound lanes of Highway 16, about 150 kilometers east of Edmonton, for several hours. Police say the trucks rear-ended each other during a whiteout. And meanwhile, in southern Alberta, some roads are not any better tonight. In fact, Highway 3 to the Crow's Nest Pass is closed tonight.
One of Calgary's most notorious sex offenders surprised justice officials today and pleaded guilty to two new sex charges he was facing. 31-year-old Curtis Hilchey was in court for what was supposed to be the start of a preliminary hearing. Instead, he admitted he had exposed himself to a 7-year-old girl in Calgary's Marlborough community this summer. Hilchey had just been released from federal prison on sex charges earlier in the year. He's now facing a maximum 10-year jail sentence. He will be sentenced next week.
And a judge in Red Deer is considering whether blood evidence can be used in the trial of a man charged with sexually assaulting 5 young girls. 33-year-old William Ronaldson is on trial for charges dating back some 6 years. Graham Richardson reports.
William Ronaldson is facing sexual assault and abduction charges involving 5 young girls in the Red Deer area. The attacks began in November 1988 and ended a year later. For years, police did not make an arrest, and people in the community were gripped with fear.
Again, we don't let our kids go anywhere. I've got 2 daughters of age 7 and 11, and if they miss the bus at school, we don't let them walk home. We leave work to go get them and take them home.
Today, before Ronaldson's trial could begin, lawyers argued about the way some of the evidence was collected. Several years after the attacks, police began asking suspects for blood samples to eliminate them as suspects in the crimes. One of the attacks happened at this apartment building. This particular assault came as a big break for police in Red Deer because it happened in the sauna of this building. From that, they assumed that the attacker must have lived in the building at one time, and over several months, they contacted more than 100 men who used to live here. That led them to William Ronaldson. After learning that Ronaldson lived here, police tracked him down in Chase, British Columbia, where they asked for a voluntary blood sample. Ronaldson agreed and signed a consent form. 2.5 years after that, he was arrested and brought back to Red Deer. Today, defense lawyers argued that the RCMP believed Ronaldson was a suspect for some time, but they didn't have enough evidence to link him to the crimes. The defense says police needed the blood sample and the DNA evidence to arrest him for the Red Deer sexual assaults. They say Ronaldson's charter rights were violated when police took the blood sample. The fight over the evidence will continue tomorrow. The judge is expected to rule on it by the end of the week. Graham Richardson, CBC News, Red Deer.
Premier Klein is poised for another fight with Ottawa, this time with the Supreme Court of Canada. The issue? The right of Alberta prisoners to vote. Natalie Clancy has the story.
For years, inmates at Alberta's federal prisons have been allowed to vote, but it's a right that's been denied to inmates in Alberta's provincial jails.
Our concern is that we are not obeying the law of the land.
George Blockert is a lawyer who says Alberta is violating prisoners' constitutional rights. In 1992, the country's highest court, the Supreme Court of Canada, backed that up, ruling that all Canadian citizens must be allowed to vote, including inmates.
I'm the official enumerator for this area here.
Enumerators are going door to door now in Alberta, but they're not enumerating in prisons. Blockert's group is considering a court challenge on behalf of inmates. He says by not allowing inmates to vote, the province is simply being mean-spirited.
This is not a punishment meted out by the courts. This is an additional punishment meted out by the province, and I think it's an improper punishment.
But Premier Ralph Klein says he doesn't care what the Supreme Court says. Alberta has its own laws.
With wrongdoing, serious wrongdoing, that lands a person in jail, you lose certain rights.
And the government has taken the position that the Supreme Court ruling only applies to federal prisons. But the Liberal justice critic says the province has left itself open for an embarrassing court challenge that could interfere with an election.
In Alberta, for some strange reason, we've tended to ignore that very clear direction from the Supreme Court. I think that what the provincial government is setting itself up for is a last-minute injunction application. And so we're going to have a whole lot of uncertainty at the time people are getting ready to vote in the next provincial election.
With only a few days of enumeration left in Alberta, the government has made it clear that inmates at jails like this one will not be on the voters list. But lawyers who represent inmates in provincial jails say if the government doesn't resolve this, the courts will. Natalie Clancy, CBC News, Calgary.
Speaking of a springtime election, expect a big announcement next week on increased health care spending in Alberta. Ralph Klein says he has a plan to fix the ailing system.
It's based on what we've heard and our examination of the pressure points within various RHAs, in particular the Edmonton and Calgary RHAs. And it's predicated to some degree on what needs to be done within the administrations of those health authorities to make sure that the money is not being wasted on administration and bureaucracy, but actually goes to patient care. It deals with, to some degree, with long-term care and the aging population.
There is concern tonight among women who use the birth control pill. A new study conducted in Edmonton suggests there is a link between the pill and the chance of dying from breast cancer. Kim Ternacity has our story.
Since 1960, women have used birth control pills as one of the most effective ways to prevent pregnancy. Now, a study of 3,000 women in Alberta found on average young women with breast cancer died 4 years sooner than those who never took the pill.
The finding in relation to the birth control pill suggests that they don't fare as well as women who have not taken the birth control pill.
But the study reviewed patients from 1971 to 1989. Because the pill has gradually changed over the years, it's not clear if the danger to women still exists.
I don't know. I don't think we can yet say what the differences in survival are, because 88 is only 8 years ago, 71 is 25 years ago. I think we need to continue to observe this group of women and to update the information that we have.
But Dr. Cummings says the benefits of the pill still far outweigh the risks. But this group of nursing students is skeptical.
Studies like this definitely make me think again and consider other options. So
this may help me decide, should I not?
The pills that women are taking now may have totally different effects on their bodies than the pills that women took 30 years ago. So, I mean, there's lots of long-term monitoring that has to go on.
The results of the study will be given at a national conference at Lake Louise on Friday. The authors hope their findings will spark enough interest amongst healthcare professionals to promote even further research. Kim Trinacity, CBC News, Edmonton.
Hi, I'm Steve Rothfels with a look at your wake-up. What you may not want to wake up tomorrow. Further 1 to 3 centimeters before it ends tomorrow morning, minus 25. I actually should see clearing in the morning hours and a fairly sunny day the rest of the day, but darn chilly with a high of only minus 22. Edmonton, the snow just continues. 2 to 4 centimeters tonight, another 2 to 4 centimeters tomorrow, minus 21 when you get up. It will end later in the afternoon, a high of minus 18 only. I'll have the rest of the province and my extended forecast for both Calgary and Edmonton in about 10 minutes.
Sports time. Dirks and Connolly are here on this dark and snowy night throughout the province. Weather fit for an Eskimo in the right shoes, right, Doug?
Oh, yeah. Whatever are you referring to, Bob? The CFL season is over as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. The stamps are done all right.
That hurts.
I know. But the Eskimos leave for Hamilton first thing tomorrow morning. But they did have a chance to check out the Oilers and Hawks tonight in Edmonton.
Chicago's in Calgary on Friday night to face a Flames team with a new look. All that coming up and more after the scores.